So you see, in in this OOP, there are many things, right? It's very wide. We can also cover all now, but at least we're introducing you to some of the concepts. Now, one is the magic method. So I was talking about the STRO and the other one is ROEPR. So before I implement them, let us check out something. So we have a manager, right? His name is Mikel Obi, although I wanted it to be full, like all these other ones. Anyway, let's just for now. Now, just this is the manager. Let's try something. Let's print this employee. See, when we run it to printing, let me clear my screen. Run it again. So if you look at my terminal, you will see that when I say print manager, this is what comes out. Okay, it just say um, manager object at this is the location in my computer. So there's a manager object in my computer somewhere. But sometimes this is not the kind of thing I want to see, right? I want to have a good display of manager. Maybe his name, at least show me something about him instead of showing all this kind of things. This number, it doesn't make sense. So right now it is showing this because I have not implemented these two methods in my class. STRO and REPR, okay, is not implemented in my class. This method tells they are magic methods that determines what will be shown when your class is printed. So what do I mean? If we dwell on this manager class, I can come and you know define RE REPR. This REPR.
LB, we're almost losing your voice.
Okay, hello. I hope it's better now. So I'm saying that these two methods, they are one of the magic, two of the magic methods that affect how your class is displayed when you say print. Print this object, what shows when you print an object of a class is determined by those methods. First of all, we have the REPR. Now, if I have not defined any of these methods, when I print, you will see something that looks like this, which many people will not like to see because it doesn't make sense. But it's just telling me this is a manager object and is at this location. Okay, fine. Now, if I wanted to print better, maybe whenever I print it, I would like to see um maybe his first name and last name, right? I'll just say manager, his first name and last name, self dot first name, and here self dot last name. So now I have gone ahead to define an REPR to return this. Yeah, I save it. When I now run the code again to print, you can see that it printed manager Mike Obi because I've defined how it should be represented using the REPR. Again, there's another method which is the it's a magic method STR, okay, which does almost the same thing, but they are not exactly the same. Manager, let me call it STRO method. Now, since I've defined both of them, I save it. When I run it, print will use the str because that's the major one for printing, first of all. So it will use manager str method. And we still have an REPR. What's the difference between these two methods? This one now is supposed to give more detail about this class object, okay? Which is maybe if I'm trying to do some kind of debugging or looking deeper at the code, I'll have more details under this method. And this one should just be a kind of summary, little print representation of my object, which I will define. But in any case, any of them you define, if you define REPR and you don't have STR, whenever you say print, it will use REPR. If you don't have REPR, if you don't have it and you define the str, then you can also print it. So I just showing the two of them. They are similar in that regard, but in reality, this one is used for more detail, than str. Now, anytime you don't have it in a implemented in a method, you can't print it. You'll be having this funny looking kind of structure. But now you define how you want your object to be printed. So I can also go ahead and define such methods for maybe if I defined it in person, when I go to that point of manager, it will inherit the one in person. But if I redefine manager like this, the one in person may have some details manager does not have, then I'll have some conflict. Okay. But if I use that super, then everything would have been fine. And of course, if you notice that your manager is just different from the rest, you have to write his own. Okay, but these are magic methods. These magic methods now they control how the element or the object is printed. Then I talked about another magic method, which is add. So the add magic method now talks about how the object of this class will behave when you say plus. When you write something like um, if employee one plus employee, let's say I have employee two. If I have defined employee two before, maybe I define it and it's also a manager, and I say manager Harry Potter. So these two people are managers, but now if I do these two objects, if I say employee one plus employee two, what is going to happen? If I run it now, you see it to be an error because I have not defined this add magic methods. Then if I go ahead and write in how they should be added, then that is what it will use. So if I save it and run, see, it's going to bring that error. Type error, unsupported operand type for plus. So manager and manager, it doesn't know how to use plus for them. But if I want to define how I can add two managers, if I think I need to, then I'll pull out that magic method, add. Then write how they should be added. Maybe we can add them by their salary. Okay. So, okay, a manager is supposed to have a salary. Let's say if we inherited from employees to have a pay, he or she will have a pay. Then we can just define that adding two employees simply means returning the sum of their salaries. Then you go ahead and implement the method to do that. So let's say, let me define one for manager. Then I can say return. Of course, when you're adding, you have to add two things. So the other one will be another argument. I can return self dot pay, assuming it has a pay, equal to P. Assuming it has a P, so in this construction there should be a P. So it has a P. Okay, I'll then say self self dot P plus order dot P. So this is also assuming order is also another manager. So order we have dot P. Okay. Now we will need to okay, that's fine. Let's save it and try. Okay, we need to add pay. Yeah. Maybe I say this one is taking 50. And this guy as a manager is 120. So now I save it. Run. Okay, I needed to print it out so we'll see the result. So you can see now. I have defined that anytime you add two managers, it should be sum their pay. That's my definition of add. Now to further make this clear again about this add method, you know when you're adding string, instead of string to add like numbers this way, string will join, you know how we've talked about it severally. The reason for that is because there is a string, there's a, let's put it like str is the class for string, okay? It has a method like this, add. Then you can call it on maybe string A. You can call it on A and then B. So it has a method like this that is dot add is defined in Python. That's why you can add to string and this will result in something like another string that is AB. That's how it functions. But you could also still call this on int. Int is another class. Remember, we told you in the last class that everything in Python is classes and objects. Int is a class on its own. It also has that add. When you call it on two integers, 1 and 2, it should return 3. So you can observe these two behaviors are different. Why is it like that? It's because in their class implementation, how it is written, what should happen is different for those classes. Now, in this magic method, there are several of them. You can also check Python documentation on magic methods. You see a lot of them, which you can add to your code if you want some of these special operations to be performed on your class. Okay. In terms of integer and string, they've been implemented to behave like that. You can also maybe ask yourself that, okay, how do I know if one employee is greater than another employee? We can use age. You know, in our classes that we define today, we have age somewhere. Maybe in person, we have age. So we can now say use an age comparison if we want to do greater than, because there's still a magic method for greater than, which is this, greater than. If I go and implement this greater than method in my person class, I can implement it that anytime the person's age is bigger than the other person, return true. So if I say employee 1 greater than employee B, it will work. That instead of using plus, I can then say, okay, employee 1 greater than employee 2. There will be something that will compare it. But if you do this now, it will be an error because there is no greater than method written. So these magic methods, they are available to us to give us all these operations within our class. Okay, is it clear? At least one of the most common is str or REPR, because at least you want to have a representation of your class. When somebody say print, how should my class object show? You can define that using these two. So they are very popular. But then you have other ones. That's what I'm trying to say. There's add, there's subtract, there's greater than, there's less than, there's equal to. There are lots. If you check the documentation, you see them. So any of them you implement in the class, then it gives you that functionality. So at least we've gone through some key concepts in classes and objects. We talked about class, what they are, like blueprint. Then we talked about the objects of the class. We moved on to talk about the attributes of those objects, which are the ones you see in your constructor, your init method. We talked about class attributes. Then we also talked about class method. And we then talked about static methods. Then today we took it a step further and talk about inheritance, how you can inherit from other classes. Okay, then I think there's one thing I can show you now. So let's look at this class manager. Let's look at class manager and let's print it and see what happens. Or let's print help. Let's see something there. Save. Run. Okay, let me change this one to comments. Save again. Then run. Now I called help on manager. I want to show something. Press enter for more. Okay. So now if I print the help on manager, let me first clear my screen. Okay. This manager string will be because we printed it here. We printed this, right? Now, when I say help manager, if you look at it closely, let me just set it well. This is where it starts from. Help on class manager. So now look at this. Manager, this is what you need to construct it. Then look at this important part. Method resolution order is just similar to the namespaces we talked about. So anytime it's trying to resolve any attribute or method, it will first check in manager class. It's a subclass of employees, is a subclass of persons, and persons is a subclass of built-in.object. Built-in.object now, when we're even using the word class this, you're just creating it's still inheriting from Python's built-in.object. Okay, so anytime you call a method, it resolves it like this, although majority of what your class is going to use is dependent on these ones you define and not the built-in.object. Okay. So this help is useful. You can call it on any class and you see some details of the class and the methods are in the class. It will show you all of them. You could keep entering and hitting enter for more, and then it would give you more documentation. Even you that have the class, you're writing your class, you can also add a docstring to all your methods. I believe we know what a docstring is. You could add it here. You could have some write-up about your str method or any other method in your class to give other people more information about the class. So I don't know if we have any question at this point. I see a couple of people have left the class, but there's some important information I want us to discuss before we close. Any question?
For me, for now, no.
Okay. It will be nice to, try. I hope we are, doing the exercises because that's the main thing. Remember, we said when we come to this chapter, we are rounding up with the basics of Python. So this is supposed to be like our last class to that in that regard. Okay. So we've touched many things. There's still a lot we didn't touch. Like we talked about these decorators. It came up today. We've not thought about decorators, but it's something to be learned. But it's an advanced topic. It's not just a fundamental topic. So that you can also write your own decorators. You know how they are written and how they work. So, but at this point, we want to talk about foundation Python. Anybody that have been following us and you follow the textbook we are using, you're solving those questions at least number 1 to 10. I'm sure your foundation on Python will be very strong. But if you've not been solving them, you may like what you're seeing, you may have an understanding, but trust me, it's not in you. It's not in you in the sense that if you stop now, let's say we just say, oh, the class ends today for this session or this series, this is the last one of them, and you come back in the next 2 3 months and someone asks you, even show you this code and asks you, you understood it today, but you find out that you struggle to even understand what's happening here, what's happening here, what is this and all that, because you are not doing it, not part of you. That's why we've been stressing that we should try and be solving it and solving it and solving it. But apart from that, now the next class we will have will be more of question and answer. Okay, question and answer. If that's next week, if we have maybe you've been solving some things with everything we've taught, and you have something you want us to talk about more, area of expansion, we'll explain in the next class. So you come with questions. Next class is not a class of topic where we'll give you topics. It's question and answer. Come with your question. Then we would also talk about in the next class the direction. Because now that you've understood Python, all things being equal to a level, at least have an understanding of OOP, functions, and every other thing that we've learned. What do you do with it? What's the next direction? So that's what we're going to talk about in the next class. We'll have question and answer section, and we'll talk about that. We could then be talking about data science with Python. We'll talk about back-end engineering with Python. We could also talk about, because these are different areas you could go to with your foundational knowledge of Python. You could go into machine learning. You will not find it difficult because you understand these are the same concepts that they are going to build on, right? You could go to software testing with Python, software quality assurance with Python. So there are different things you can now do with Python, but all things being equal, when you talk about the language Python, at this stage, almost nothing will surprise you. You might not know something, but at least you should be familiar with these basic concepts of Python. Okay, basic. So even this OOP is not as if we have talked about everything in OOP. There's a lot. There's still a lot in OOP. Okay, but at least for the sake of foundations, we've touched these key points, which we just want you to know about. So any other things? Good news, Betty, Henry, Benjamin, any other thing?
No, for now, no.
Okay, I beg next class, next Sunday, let's come with better question.
Okay.
It's more engaging when you have questions, when you have struggles, because that's where the real learning is done. But now you can appreciate it. Oh, it's true.
Not
Yeah,
really. I've been having serious.
go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll stop here for today since there is no question. All right, we'll call it a day.
Okay.
Can I bring questions from any other place?
Within Python, yes. When you say any other place,
Hello.
if you
Hello, LB.
bring, yes,
LB.
yes, I'm with you.
Okay. From functions, from
Yeah,
X,
yeah.
from OP and dictionary.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, anywhere. But don't
Thank
go
you.
and bring machine learning or one
I've
other
been having serious
area that is
network
not my
issues.
expertise. I will not be able to answer. Me, I'm a student of machine learning. I'm also learning myself that area. Sorry, okay. Issues where actually? Where
Wow.
exactly?
I think from text file